this FTA between the EU and US will actually happen?
Very high. Very high. You know, I started off 2 years ago thinking it'd be less than 1% probability that they do it. I'm now at about 75, almost 80%, that they, before the end of the year, they'll recommend that we go ahead and launch a free trade agreement negotiations, and that by the time April rolls around, we could actually start them. And yourself?
Actually, I would say, I would divide the question into three parts. I would say the likelihood that they would start negotiation, extremely high. I would probably even put it slightly north of your figure, because I don't think that either of the side has any choice. The question is when, and I think there is a strong urgency from the European side, but we are talking basically months, so, or, you know, give or take. So let's leave that aside for now. The third question is, of course, will the FTA actually materialize?
Then you get to the question of what are the problems.
Yeah, exactly. And I would even say that I'm not sure. It's not as high as your figure, slightly south, but still very high. But I'm quite convinced that the FTA would look very different than you and I wish it would.
Well, that's too bad, because I think one of the keys to getting this done is for the two sides to have the same picture of how they're going to achieve it. And if they don't have that picture, then you'll run into a problem. If they talk about a single undertaking where every issue has to be resolved before they conclude an agreement, we should not even begin negotiating. If they can think of a flexible framework where they do the market opening things and then let the regulatory issues take more time, that would make sense. But they need to do that if they're going to succeed.
I absolutely agree. But then the key question pops up. How do we explain to our other FTA partners that we are going to treat the US different or EU different than we do from the others? How do you explain that, for instance, in TPP negotiation, in that context, that we're going to do it different with the EU because they're special?
I think that that's actually very easy to do. Regulatory issues cannot be done multilaterally. They have to be done bilaterally. You only have regulators reach agreement when they trust each other. And the questions for the Japanese, for the TPP, whatever, depends on, do we have that level of trust between our regulators? Do our regulators believe they're going for the same level of protection, even if they go about it in a different way? We have, in the United States, we have regulatory councils with Canada and Mexico, because we work with them all the time. In the EU, the countries, because they're in the EU, they have that trust. And it will be interesting to see whether or not we can have the same sort of level of trust between the United States and the EU. I think we should be able to.
Well, I absolutely agree with you there on the modalities and the process of the negotiation. The question is, do we have a least common denominator agreement?
No.
Or do we have the highest common denominator agreement? And that depends on the level of ambitions and how much aligned they are in that position. And I have to say that the key question is how the crisis play out. I mean, on both sides, I mean, we are looking at zero growth economies, and we have huge structural problems on both sides. And we haven't even started to realize our sensitive sectors yet. We just know that there are going to be different kinds of sensitive sectors than we have had in previous FTAs, mainly with Asian economies, but there will be sensitivities.
The good thing is, because there's so much investment, anything we do that reduces the cost of the integrated operations will make our firms globally more competitive, and that's one thing we're looking for. Anyway, so we will get it done.
Absolutely.
That's our job.
That's our job.